Juliet Adamma leaned over the table in her tiny room, her pen moving furiously across the pages of her notebook. The dim glow of the kerosene lamp illuminated her determined face, framed by tight cornrows. In the distance, her mother's voice called out, reminding her to take a break. "Juliet, don't overwork yourself oh." Her mother's tone was gentle yet firm. "You have done well already. Remember what I said. Focus on your books oh, and keep away from friends who will lead you astray." "Yes ma," Juliet replied, smiling. Her mother entered the room, her wrapper tied tightly around her waist. She placed a hand on Juliet's shoulder. "I don't want to hear stories oh. Remember, it is not everyone who claps for you that wishes you well. Keep good friends and stay focused in school." She knew her mother's warnings came from a place of love. Life in Nsukka had been tough, and getting into the prestigious university of her country to study law was the family's greatest pride. Juliet promised herself she wouldn't let them down. When she arrived at the university, Juliet stuck to a routine. She would go to lectures, visit the library, and study at night. Her hard work paid off when she emerged as the top student in her first year, with the highest CGPA in the entire school. The campus buzzed with her name. Everyone wanted to meet the brilliant girl who was destined for greatness. By her second year, Juliet had tasted the sweetness of admiration. Strangers greeted her on campus, lecturers praised her, and her peers envied her. But she began to crave more. She wanted more. She needed more. She has noticed three girls in her department, Ife, Bimpe, and Chika. They walked into class late, carrying designer bags and wearing the latest fashion. Their laughter echoed confidently through the halls, and she envied them so much. She wants to be like them. She longs to be their friend. It started innocently. Juliet offered to keep seats for Ife and her friends during a crowded lecture. They thanked her casually, barely noticing her efforts. She didn't mind. She was determined to win their approval. The small gestures grew, helping them with assignments, paying their class dues, and running errands. They began to call her Juliet our lawyer, laughing as they handed her tasks. Slowly, they let her into their cycle. Juliet became their puppet. She continued keeping seats for them in class, ran their dirty errands, and even delivered bribes to lecturers on their behalf. At first, it was exciting. It felt like a dream come true, getting the attention and acceptance of these girls who seemed untouchable. But slowly, they pushed her into darker waters, alcohol, white parties, and eventually drugs. One evening, Ife invited Juliet to a party. "It's just for fun," she said, swirling her braided wig. "You need to loosen up. Life isn't all about books, you know." Juliet hesitated, but eventually agreed. The house party was nothing like she imagined. The air was thick with smoke and the smell of alcohol. Juliet handed her a red solo cup. "Drink up, Juliet. This is how we have fun." She sipped from the cup, the bitter taste of alcohol burning her throat, but she smiled through it. By her third year, Juliet was a shadow of her former self. Her once perfect CGPA had dropped, and she barely attended lectures unless Ife told her to. The girls treated her like a servant, sending her on errands, making her to copy their notes, and even delivering bribes to lecturers. "Juliet, go to Professor Ade's office and drop this envelope. Make sure no one sees you," Ife commanded one afternoon. Juliet hesitated, but Ife's glare silenced her. The fear of losing their friendship was greater than her guilt. So she went. The parties became wider. Juliet began experimenting with her alcohol, wearing revealing clothes and flirting with boys. Her transformation shocked her old friends who tried to intervene. Juliet, this isn't you. Chioma, her roommate, pleaded one night. You are throwing everything for girls who don't even care about you. They are my friends, Chioma, Juliet snapped, turning away. You wouldn't understand. But deep down, she knew Chioma was right. By her final year, Juliet was unrecognizable. Her once clear eyes were now clouded with regrets, and her assignments were often incomplete. Her CGPA had dropped drastically, and despite her crumbling academic life, she still followed Ify and the others. One fateful night, they attended a party at a club. The light and pounding music masked the danger lurking in the shadows. A boy approached the group, handing them a small silver-wrapped pill. "Try this, it's new," he said with a smirk. Ify handed it to Juliet. "You first." Desperate to please and remain their friend, Juliet sniffed the powder. Instantly, her vision blurred and her body felt weightless. The next morning, she woke up in her hostel with no memory of how she got there, but something was wrong. Chioma noticed the changes first. Juliet would laugh hysterically at nothing or mutter incoherently. One morning, Chioma woke to find Juliet sitting cross-legged on the floor, scribbling nonsense on her books. "Juliet, are you okay?" Juliet's head snapped up, her eyes wide. "They are coming for me, Chioma. They are coming here." Chioma was terrified and ran to report Juliet's behavior to the hostel warden, who called her parents. She was taken to the hospital, and within days, Juliet was diagnosed with psychosis, likely triggered by the drugs she had taken. Her parents were devastated, their dreams of seeing their daughter become a lawyer crumbling into dust. News of Juliet's condition spread quickly. The girl who had once been the pride of her department was now used as a bad example to freshers. Ify, Bimpe and Chika avoided her entirely, fearful of being implicated. Juliet couldn't write her final exams, and while she sat in a cold room at the psychiatric hospital, her friends, Ify, Bimpe and Chika, graduated with honors. Months later, Juliet sat in the hospital garden, staring at the sky. If only she had listened to her mother, she lamented. She was no longer the top student or the rising star. She was simply Juliet, a girl who had lost herself seeking validation.